Two legendary guitarists, one deafening silence. What if I told you that two of the greatest rock guitarists of all time have never acknowledged each other's genius? Jimmy Page, the mastermind behind Led Zeppelin, and Ritchie Blackmore, the fire-fingered creator of Smoke on the Water, have both changed rock music forever. But here's the jaw-dropping truth that's kept under wraps for decades. Despite sharing the same musical universe, Page has never in all his public interviews mentioned Blackmore's name as an influence. Not once. Why? The answer reveals a dark side of the music industry that will change how you see your rock heroes forever. Before we dive into this epic tale of rivalry, let's understand these two titans. Jimmy Page, born in 1944 in Heston, England, wasn't always the guitar god you know him as. Early in his career, he was the quiet, unassuming session guitarist who played on more hit records than you can count. Everyone who was anyone wanted Page on their track. In fact, by the time he was 22, he'd already played on more recordings than most guitarists do in their entire careers. From the Kinks' You Really Got Me to the Who's I Can't Explain, Page's guitar work shaped the sound of British Invasion before most people even knew his name. But something in him yearned for more. When he joined the Yardbirds in 1966, nobody could predict he'd revolutionize the entire rock genre. 2 years later, Led Zeppelin burst onto the scene like nothing the world had ever heard, with Page's innovative techniques pushing boundaries no one knew existed. But across town, another guitar prodigy was forging his own legacy. Ritchie Blackmore, born in 1945 in Weston-super-Mare, was the rebel who refused to follow the rules. When his father gave him his first guitar at age 11, classical music wasn't exactly what he had in mind. Yet, young Ritchie was forced to study classical technique with the strictest teachers in his area, a training that would later make his rock solos distinctive and almost impossible to copy. Working as a session musician alongside Page, Blackmore developed a reputation for being difficult, demanding, and brilliant. His session work included playing with everyone from Joe Cocker to Tom Jones, but he always brought a unique classically influenced edge to every recording. When he co-founded Deep Purple in 1968, everything changed. His riffs became legendary, especially the iconic Smoke on the Water, arguably the most famous guitar riff in history, recorded after the band witnessed a fire at the Montreux Casino during Frank Zappa's concert. Here's where things get weird. Throughout the 1970s, both guitarists played with similar bands, influenced similar genres, and even crossed paths multiple times at festivals and studio sessions. They shared the same producers, the same studios, and even some of the same session musicians. Yet, in hundreds of interviews, Page never once mentioned Blackmore's influence or talent. Think about that for a moment. Two of the greatest guitarists of their era, operating in the same scene, playing similar venues, yet one refuses to acknowledge the other exists. This silence screams louder than any criticism could. But why? The answer isn't simple, and it reveals uncomfortable truths about the music industry's inner workings. Blackmore never played the political game that was essential for survival in the music business of the 1970s. He didn't schmooze with industry executives or kiss up to other musicians. When asked about other guitarists, he was brutally honest, even criticizing Page's improvisational skills, once stating that Page couldn't improvise his way out of a paper bag. This honesty made him an outsider, in an industry that valued conformity as much as talent. Let me tell you about the moment when Blackmore really burned his bridges with the rock establishment. In a 1976 interview with Guitar Player magazine, he openly criticized not only Page, but also Clapton, Beck, and even his own bandmates. He said, "I don't care about being liked, I care about playing what feels right. Most of these so-called guitar heroes are just following formulas." This attitude made him rock's most notorious lone wolf. Meanwhile, Page became the industry darling, praised by peers and critics alike. He gave interviews complimenting other guitarists, appeared on award shows, and played the role of the grateful rock star. The more Blackmore rejected the establishment, the more he was pushed to the fringes of the industry. Now, here's what most people don't realize. This wasn't just about personalities clashing. The music industry of the 1970s was built on a complex system of alliances and mutual promotion that functioned like a brotherhood. When Led Zeppelin was rising, Page made sure to praise other guitarists like Clapton and Beck, ensuring good press coverage and industry support. Record label executives would arrange meetings between artists to create positive press opportunities. Blackmore's refusal to participate in this system effectively excluded him from the rock aristocracy. His manager once revealed that Blackmore turned down numerous opportunities to collaborate with other famous guitarists, because he saw it as selling out. Consider this stunning fact: when Rolling Stone magazine released their list of the 100 greatest guitarists in 2003, Blackmore barely made the top 50, coming in at number 55. This wasn't about talent, it was about recognition and politics. Page, ranked number 9, has been celebrated in every Hall of Fame imaginable. The silence surrounding Blackmore's genius became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The less he was acknowledged, the less he was remembered in mainstream circles. It's worth noting that this same list placed Eric Clapton at number 4, despite many critics and musicians privately admitting that Blackmore's technical abilities surpassed most of his contemporaries. But here's the irony that should make every rock fan sit up and take notice. Blackmore's influence far outweighs his recognition. If you listen to modern rock guitarists, you'll hear Blackmore's techniques everywhere. His classical meets rock approach revolutionized how guitar solos were constructed. Every time you hear a neoclassical metal shred, you're hearing Blackmore's legacy. His use of harmonic minor scales, his distinctive finger vibrato, and his blend of classical arpeggios with blues-based pentatonic runs, became the foundation for an entire genre. Let me share a personal story that illustrates this perfectly. When interviewing Steve Vai for a magazine, I asked him about his influences. Without hesitation, he said Blackmore was the godfather of all the techniques that make modern rock guitar playing what it is today. Similarly, Yngwie Malmsteen has stated that Blackmore was doing what I'm doing 20 years before me. Yet, you won't see Blackmore on most Guitar Hero documentaries. It's as if his name has been systematically erased from rock history. Page's silence on Blackmore isn't just personal. It represents an entire industry's willingness to sideline those who don't play by its rules. This selective recognition has shaped how we understand rock history. When Blackmore left Deep Purple at the height of their success to form Rainbow, many saw it as career suicide. When he switched to folk music with Blackmore's Night in the 1990s, the rock establishment laughed. But Blackmore never cared about their approval. He once said, "I don't play for critics or other musicians, I play for myself and for the people who get what I'm doing." Here's the part that should make your blood boil. While other guitarists got lucrative sponsorship deals, magazine covers, and industry accolades, Blackmore was left to fund his own projects. The system that celebrated Page's every move deliberately ignored Blackmore's innovations. When Marshall Amplification created their signature artist series, Page got his own model, while Blackmore, despite using Marshall amps throughout his career, was notably absent from the lineup. This wasn't just about two guitarists, it was about who gets to write rock history. In recent years, the silence has become even more pointed. When asked about Blackmore in a 2018 interview for Guitar World, Page skillfully changed the subject to discuss vintage amplifiers instead. This deliberate omission speaks volumes about the unwritten rules of rock stardom. It's not enough to be talented. You have to play the game, and Blackmore refused to even learn the rules. Let's talk about what this means for music fans like you. When you listen to Led Zeppelin, you're hearing some of the greatest rock music ever made, no question. But when you listen to Deep Purple or Rainbow, you're hearing something equally revolutionary that never got its due. The difference isn't in the quality of the music, but in how it was marketed to you. The industry's treatment of Blackmore changed how future musicians approached their careers. Today's artists learn early that talent isn't enough. You need the right connections, the right attitude, and the right PR team. Blackmore's career is a warning to those who would put artistic integrity over industry politics. As we near the end of this story, consider the musicians who've cited Blackmore as their primary influence. Yngwie Malmsteen, Brian May, Adrian Smith, Randy Rhoads, and countless others. They represent a parallel history of rock, one that celebrates technical mastery over celebrity culture. This hidden lineage challenges the official narrative we've been fed for decades. The silence between Page and Blackmore symbolizes something bigger than personal rivalry. It represents the music industry's power to shape perception and legacy. When you control who gets recognized, you control music history itself. Blackmore's refusal to participate in this system makes him the ultimate rock rebel, even if that rebellion cost him proper recognition. So here's the enduring message: the next time you listen to rock music, ask yourself who decided which artists became legends, and which became footnotes. Ritchie Blackmore's guitar still burns with the same passion it always did, whether or not his name appears on industry lists. His music didn't need validation then, and it doesn't need it now. What it needs is listeners who can hear beyond the narrative, beyond the politics, and into the heart of the music itself. Remember this: the greatest revolution in music often happens in silence. Blackmore never needed Page's approval to change the world of guitar playing. He just needed his guitar, his vision, and the courage to remain true to himself while the world tried to forget him. And in the end, isn't that what rock and roll was supposed to be about? The next time you hear the opening riff of Smoke on the Water, or the haunting intro to Rainbow Eyes, remember that you're listening to the work of a man who chose integrity over fame, truth over politics, and music over money. That's a legacy that no amount of silence can ever diminish.